Product provided by Koei Tecmo Europe. Who on earth saw this coming, eh? Not only are we getting a new retro Ninja Gaiden game, but also a mainline entry by Platinum Games who did Ninja Gaiden back in the day, and also a remaster of NG2 they released the day they announced it. The NG is back! Terrible. Oh no. But what exactly is Ninja Gaiden 2 Black? The word Black carries a lot of expectation with it in this franchise, as Ninja Gaiden Black is generally considered the definitive version of the 2004 Ninja Gaiden reboot. By the fans anyway. The subsequent Sigma release is not regarded quite as well, which many diehards lament being the version bundled in the Master Collection from 2021. So, coming out with a new version of NG2 with the Black label is either a statement of intent to give players the definitive version of this title and recognise the shortcomings of Sigma, or a shallow marketing ploy to get the fanboys to shut up about Sigma and buy the game again. Rebuilt in Unreal Engine 5, the most obvious change is, of course, the visuals. The graphics have gotten a huge boost here, and these environments have never looked prettier, especially Sky City Tokyo. Look at it! And New York looks phenomenal in the rain, especially now that the Doatex signs have been fixed. But Venice could do with a better sewage system. I've seen sewers in Moscow with more appealing water. Where I feel the visuals are let down some is the character models. Not all, as Ryu's update has even managed to get me, someone who is sick to death of the legendary Black Falcon outfit, to admire the texture work here. And Diane's newly transparent sleeves are lovely, but other characters can be off. As is often the case when new visuals are stapled over the top of older animations, the shortcuts and shortcomings are brought into much higher fidelity, and the emotion on the faces is often muted. Yakuza Kiwami is still the prime example to me, but enemy eyes here have about as much life as a flat texture, and Sonya often feels much more static than her 2008 counterpart. But they did fix her missing chest tattoo in her second outfit, so swings and roundabouts. Speaking of things being missing, the game's most substantial change outside of the visuals is the removal of the 2 statue bosses added in Sigma. These were unpopular additions because they were just the most generic, played out, stock, giant boss fights imaginable, and they ruined the pacing of the stages they were included in. For as funny as the idea of a fiend who wants to bone Lady Liberty so much that he gives her life to kill Ryu Hayabusa is, these are better left out. And in case you're wondering, no, they didn't bring back the terrible worm fight that got cut from Sigma. All 3 terrible bosses are missing and the game is much better for it. Mechanically, the game is largely still Sigma. This is very much a deluxe remaster of the game, retaining the original gameplay at its core, but including several quality of life improvements along the way. For example, they reverted the changes to weapon upgrades. The original version had you use Essence to buy upgrades as you did in the prior game. Sigma changed it so you just get a free upgrade at specific Muramasa shops, but only the one, which gave progression a much more rigid pace compared to just buying any upgrade, as many as you could afford at any given shop, and you'd be inundated with Essence you'd have nothing to buy with. Black just has you buy them with Essence. I was only missing 1 by the end. Now, with regards to difficulty, arguably the biggest roadblock for new players who might be intimidated by the series' hardcore reputation as the Dark Souls before Dark Souls, the game includes the hero difficulty from Sigma 2 Plus on the Vita, just like the Master Collection. This mode adds a buffer when you're on low health, automatically blocking and dodging enemy attacks for you, and gifting you infinite ninpo. It has a time limit, but it's generous enough that you should be able to demolish any threat before then, and you can always use health items if not. You just don't get ranked at the end of missions, so there's no need to feel intimidated by the series' reputation. Just come on in, have fun, and then increase the difficulty at your own pace. If you don't want this easier mode, then just jump right into the 3 other difficulties available at the start. And just don't be a dick to people who use it. You can also turn off the auto use of Talismans of Rebirth, which is a godsend for someone who suffered through NG1 forcing its use even when you'd rather restart. Now, as for the violence, Sigma infamously reduced the violence, turning the red jets and chunky shrapnel into purple mist and completely defanged the violence, and they only did that because the game is balanced around the dismemberment system and how the enemies continue fighting when missing limbs. Black lets you, at least in territories that don't put strict regulations on it, choose whether or not to include the gore, letting the squeamish and those nostalgic for Sigma have their option too. Speaking of options, the original Japanese and English dubs are both present and accounted for, but the lip sync in the cutscenes is matched to the English version for whatever reason, and sometimes it's very noticeable.
Until the day you become a true ninja, I will always watch over you. Promise.
お姉ちゃんが守ってあげるから、忍びになれるその日まで。
Fortunately, NG isn't a modern 4 hours of cutscenes kind of game, so it's not all that big a negative. The biggest negative in the cutscenes is all of them fading to black like a low-rent compilation on YouTube. You're cutting several seconds out of each of them, stop it! For me, the biggest loss with this version is the removal of a few costumes. NG pretty consistently does this, and I knew immediately that the Warriors collaborations would be cut, but losing Joe Hayabusa's costume as well was just a low blow. Please normalise adding costumes in re-releases, not taking them away. I'd even buy a costume pack if it had all the cut costumes from all prior versions. Ryu doesn't get enough DOA costumes in this series. Oh, and we also lose the prequel motion comic that explains how Joe got injured. Now, the ultimate question of whether or not a newcomer should buy this version. The alternative is the Master Collection, which also includes the game's prequel and sequel for about the same price. That version also incorporates many of the additions from Sigma Plus, so the actual difference in content is mostly going to be the removal of the two bosses and reverting the upgrade system. For a newcomer, I would recommend the Master Collection still, just because you're also getting another really good game, which serves as a good warm-up before you tackle NG2, which is best described as unrelenting in its combat. Itagaki really didn't give a crap about hardware limitations. For the established NG fan, is this new version worth another purchase? If you have the Master Collection, you're not missing out on much. This isn't the substantially new experience Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster offered with its gameplay and quality of life changes. It's mostly just the same. Those with the MC are probably better off waiting for the price to go down a bit first, although the price point itself isn't a problem. I guess you might be more swayed if you're a Gorehound though, because this shit is chunky. And as for my view on this version, you'll never please everyone, as many fans prefer the 2008 version, or the Sigma version, or probably even the Vita port if you're a Sigma male, but I feel that this version is the best way to play NG2, with its gameplay and visual changes largely being a success for as small as they ultimately are. I can't call it definitive due to removed costumes, and I think the ability to play those bad boss fights in some manner like the mission mode would be nice. So what comes next? Well, as mentioned, the series has 2 more new entries dropping this year, continuing both the modern and classic lines. Team Ninja is notably not the lead developer on either of these, leaving one to wonder what they are working on. Warlong 2? Rise of the Ronin 2? Or are they focusing on assisting with NG4 and making Venus Vacation Prism Dead or Alive Extreme? Hopefully they're planning another DOA release, be it DOA 7 or a remake of past entries in UE5. I'd quite like NG1 to get this treatment in the future as well. Maybe also move the Rachel missions to a separate mode and upgrade her gameplay to be closer to her actually fun version from Sigma 2. And bring back all the costumes from every version. Stop removing content that isn't bad, Team Ninja! If you liked this video, why not subscribe and support me on Patreon like these fine people here? If not, then make sure to share it with your enemies so they can suffer along with you. Today's recommended video is Ninja Gaiden 2 Carnage Perfected by Brain Alert. I've been using footage from this video for the vanilla NG2 stuff I didn't already have, and it's a great deep dive on the game and how insane Itagaki was, and exactly why vanilla isn't the perfect masterpiece some NG diehards like to claim it is. Both versions have their place, and now so does Black.